So, guys, we know that right now there's a bill that has been discussed in the United States, the US South Africa Bilateral Relations Review Act of 2025. So, this is a bill that basically reviews our relationship with the United States. There are lawmakers in the US that are not happy about how South Africa has been moving lately, and they want the Trump administration to actually do something about it. And when it comes to Donald Trump, we know that he was never a fan of Ramaphosa administration simply because Ramaphosa administration took Israel to the International Court of Justice, and there's been some consequences for that. But right now, it seems like the Trump administration also wants to target the ANC comrades. We know with this US South Africa Bilateral Relations Review Act, if this comes into law, we might see some of these top ANC officials being sanctioned, and that could mean some of their bank accounts could be frozen. That could mean these people could potentially be banned from traveling to the United States. And these are just some of the measures that this bill is looking at. But it seems like in this country right now, the investors are also not comfortable with what is happening between Trump administration and Ramaphosa administration. I'm saying this because there's a article that I saw, and I found this article to be quite interesting. And this article, it talks about this concern that the South African investors have. And you know, when it comes to the investors in this country, man, the politicians have somehow managed to turn the people against the investors. You remember the spokesperson of the ANC, Mahlengi Bengumtsiri, when she went to State of the Nation with Mike Shem. You remember she said that if these investors are not happy about South Africa or our laws, they can go and invest in India. She basically told the investors that no, guys, if you are not happy, you can go and invest in India. And if you thought that people would be mad with the spokesperson of the ANC saying this, a lot of people were actually supporting her. But this is what the politicians have actually done to the people of this country. So right now we are facing a situation where a lot of people are not working because the companies are pulling out. People are losing their jobs, and there are not a lot of people or companies that are looking to invest into South Africa because number one, the crime in this country, there is no law in this country. The comrades are completely corrupt and there is no accountability for that. So I'm sure these people or some of these companies, when they look at South Africa, they say, okay, man, this is a country that actually has a potential, but is it worth it to actually invest in South Africa? Especially with the ANC in the helm. Is it worth it to invest in South Africa? And we are seeing it right now. We are seeing it and we are feeling it as the people on the ground. We are feeling it. I know of a lot of people that have lost their jobs in the past 2 3 years. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of companies have left this country in the past 2 or 3 years. But that is not the concern of the comrades. And that is not the concern of the comrades. So going back to this article that talks about the concerns that the investors have, it says that there's a one Trump policy that could actually hurt South Africa more than the tariffs. And guys, speaking of the tariffs, you know that right now we are being slammed with the Trump's tariffs, and I'm sure these are not like, of course this is not good, especially for the people that are conducting business. It is not good because if you send your products to the United States and they are slapping them with the tariffs, and these products are expensive in the United States, meaning that the people and the companies in the United States are not going to buy these products, meaning that you are going to make less money. And when our business people in this country make less money, it means that the companies cannot continue to hire more people. These companies will retrench. They will do everything in their power to actually save themselves. And this is what we are suffering. This is what we are suffering. So this article, it says that South African investors are increasingly concerned about whether US President Donald Trump will ratchet up his action against the country, with fears of a potential ban on Americans investing in local government bonds. Hey boy. Fled. Okay, Papa, can you charge up? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. South African investors are increasingly concerned about whether US President Donald Trump will ratchet up his actions against the country, with fears of a potential ban on Americans investing in local government bonds. While South Africa has relatively little debt held in foreign countries compared to other emerging markets, American investors are significant holders of rand denominated debt. If they are prevented from holding this debt through a ban on investing in a South African government bond, local institutions will have to take on this debt and risk being overly exposed to a single asset. This would increase financial instability in the country, something the Reserve Bank has repeatedly warned about as foreign investors have sold out of local debt in recent years. Foreign investors, mainly Americans, hold around 20% of South Africans' denominated rand debt and the majority of its foreign currency bonds. Melvin Douglas, Chief Investment Officer, Bernard Troche, said a ban on funding to the South African government from the US is the last thing the country wants. And so this guy from he says that a ban on funding to the South African government from the US is the last thing the country wants. Drucci explained that despite all the talks about the importance of Trump's tariffs on the local economy, they are likely to have a relative small impact on South Africa. South Africa exports relatively little to the United States compared to China and the European Union, which consumes nearly half of the country's exported products. America only consumes around 8% of South Africa's exports, and a large share of these minerals, which are currently exempt from the tariffs, of course. As a result, while impacting the automotive and the citrus sector, Trump's tariffs will have a small overall impact on the economy, which draws the estimates to be around 0.2 percentage point of the GDP growth. Quote, at the end of the day, we actually export very little to the United States, but it doesn't matter how little that we export to the United States. The thing is that there are people that are depending on those jobs. There are people that are depending on those jobs. So this thing that we are, yeah, we are just exporting a little to the United States. There are people in this country that are depending on those jobs. And I feel like this is something that has been said by comrades over and over again, that no, these things are not going to hurt us. We are going to protect the jobs. These things are not going to hurt us. But I've heard people actually saying that people have a lot of people right now, they have already lost their jobs, mainly to the tariffs that we have been slapped with. There are a lot of people that have already lost their jobs. So every job counts, guys. Every job counts. It doesn't matter if it's 5 jobs, every job counts, especially when you live in the country like South Africa where a lot of people are not working. Every job counts. Quote, at the end of the day, we actually export very little to the United States. It is a small component and it is not a major loss for South Africa, but it will have a significant impact on particular sectors, Droche said. What is more important for South Africa is that the United States remain significant funder of the local government debt. And as a major investor with 2/3 of investable capital sitting in America, quote, so it is important for us to ensure that we maintain a good relationship with the Americans. So how is that even going to be possible with the comrades being the way that they are right now? How is it going to be possible? Because even the president of the country, man, when Ramaphosa speaks, it says like, we want to have a good relationship with the United States. But after Ramaphosa says that, the comrades will be out in the media thrashing in the United States, basically spitting on the words of the president. Because this is how Ramaphosa is actually running his administration. Everybody can say anything about anything, anytime. But this is how they go. And this is a problem that Ramaphosa has dealt with ever since he became the president. Ramaphosa has never been able to say, okay, guys, we are the only ones that are going to address such and such matters. Whenever something happens, everybody can chime in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So these people, man, they have the embassies here. They have their people here. And their people are telling them that, guys, you hear what the president is saying. Just listen to what the comrades are saying. His own comrades, listen to what these people are saying. And they are speeding into whatever that Ramaphosa is trying to achieve. So it is important for us to ensure that we maintain a good relationship with the Americans. The last thing we want is for Trump to halt funding any South African business or government. Quote, that would have a significant impact on the rand, bold hints, and the country's growth outcome. If Trump decides to forbid US investors from investing in South Africa's debt, the country could face a financial crisis. According to the Reserve Bank, such a decision would force local financial institutions to take on another 20% or so of government debt, something they already overexposed to. Over the past decade, South African banks, insurers, and asset managers have had to pick up the slack left by foreign investors selling out of local government debt. Around 20% of South African rand denominated government debt is held by foreign investors. If they are prohibited from holding these assets, the country could be plunged into a financial crisis as local institutions try to plug the gap. Efficient Group Chief Economist Dewi Root has outlined this particular threat, saying that South Africa's deteriorating financial health is an acute vulnerability for the country. Root explained that where is it? Wood explained that South Africa's fiscal accounts are in serious mess, with the country's debt loading cost 76% as share of the GDP in the most recent financial year. The state is currently paying over 1 billion to serve its debt with interest expenditure. The state is currently paying over 1 billion rands just to service this debt, with interest expenditure being the fastest growing item in the budget. Quote, approximately 20% of South Africa's rand denominated debt is held by foreign investors, with further 13% in foreign currency denominated. The vast majority is held in the United States by the American investors, with a far smaller share held by European fund managers and international institutions. Quote, this is where Donald Trump really has a big stick with which he can pressure South Africa, which we have not been talking about yet. But I don't think even this whole thing, man, has actually been explained to South Africans in language that South Africans can actually understand. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I honestly think like this is a huge disservice, man, to the people of this country, man. This is a huge disservice to the people of this country. That they are just feeding the people of this country with this nonsensical stories. They are not telling people about some of these things. Like this story, like it's highly underreported. It's highly underreported. This is not something that you could just run up to watching the mainstream media. Even if they reported, maybe they will give it like maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that and pass it off. Just like with the tariffs. There are a lot of people in this country that have lost their jobs, but they don't understand how. Hey boy, they don't understand. They don't understand how they've lost their jobs. And I feel like these are things that South Africans should actually be taught. But no, the comrades are running the show. So, guys, so what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts about this whole story? I think it's quite concerning. What are your thoughts? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Maba, so I will see you next time. Bye bye.